Before the world even knew your name, God had already set you apart. There, in the hidden places where human eyes could never see, the Creator of the universe wrote your story. Before your voice even echoed in the world, the heavens had already proclaimed the purpose you carry. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I ordained you a prophet to the nations. Jeremiah 1 verse 5. These words were not spoken by chance. They don't only echo in the ears of the prophet Jeremiah, but to all those who have been chosen by God. Chosen for a journey that transcends time and logic. Before the first breath, the plan already existed. Your life was already predestined for something greater than you could imagine. That's why it's no coincidence that you feel different. While many walk carefree, the weight of the calling already rests on your shoulders. You've always known, deep inside, that you were created for something more. That there's an invisible but real purpose guiding you. How many times have you asked yourself, why me? Why this restlessness that never goes away? Why this incessant search for meaning and direction? Because you were not born just to exist. You were born to fulfill a divine mission. And like a river that knows the sea before it touches its waters, your spirit always sensed that something was waiting ahead. Something grand. The purpose is like a sacred fire placed inside you before time. This fire is the light the enemy fears. That's why the attack started so early. Every step you take, every obstacle you face, is part of a journey that began long before your birth. Because you were called. You were chosen. And being chosen is both a weight and a privilege. God's chosen carry a light that doesn't go unnoticed. From an early age, this light attracts both the divine and the dark. That's why the attack started when you were still a child. Maybe you didn't understand the reason back then. Maybe even today you ask yourself, why was I rejected? Why did I always feel alone even in the midst of many? The answer lies in your essence. The spiritual world recognizes the anointing of the chosen, and what you carry awakens reactions. Light disturbs darkness, and the promise on your life makes the enemy try to stop you before you even understand your worth. How many difficult moments did you face in your childhood? How many times did you feel rejected, ignored, or as if you didn't belong anywhere? These feelings were not by chance. They were the first signs that your journey would be different. Because the chosen never follow the same path as the crowd. They are set apart, and the world already notices this, even if you haven't noticed it yourself. Remember, Joseph, Jacob's son, was hated by his brothers because he carried dreams given by God. Here comes that dreamer, Genesis 37 verse 19, they said, with disdain and envy. Joseph was just a young man, but he was already facing attacks for what God had planted within him. His life carried such a great purpose that it stirred the fury of those around him. In the same way, the chosen face opposition from early on. Maybe you've been falsely accused. Maybe you've been the target of cruel words. But that wasn't to destroy you, it was to shape you. The first battles serve to strengthen your resilience. While others crumble under pressure, you become stronger. While others get lost in rejection, you learn to trust God. Understand one thing, rejection was not the end, it was the beginning. Loneliness was not a punishment, it was preparation. God was using every tear, every wound, and every experience to mold the warrior you needed to become. Like a tree that, even in the midst of storms, sinks its roots deeper into the ground, you were growing silently. Every attack was a reminder that you carry something precious. Because the most valuable gold is the one that passes through the most intense fire. Don't curse the difficulties you faced when you were young. The light you carry has always been seen even before you recognized it in yourself. And now, chosen one, what will you do with this light? There's a light inside you that the world can't ignore. It cannot be extinguished, it cannot be hidden. It is a divine flame placed by God, and like all light, it attracts both admiration and envy. Have you noticed how your presence bothers others? How people you've never harmed seem to have something against you? That happens because the light you carry reveals the shadows around. It's not you who confronts them directly, but your essence. Where there is light, darkness is exposed, and not everyone is ready for that. It was the same with Joseph. He didn't ask to be the chosen one. He didn't beg for the dreams God gave him. But still, his brothers hated him for what he carried. They couldn't bear the thought that Joseph possessed something special, something they didn't understand. And when his brothers saw that their father loved him more, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. Genesis 37 verse 4. You chosen one carry the same energy. Your light awakens conflicting emotions in others. While some see you as an inspiration, others see you as a threat. While some approach to learn, others rise up to try to destroy you. This is the duality of light. It attracts allies but also enemies. How many times have you felt unjustly treated by people who should support you? How many times have your gifts and talents been the subject of criticism and disdain? This happens because your presence reminds others of what they are not living. Your courage exposes their cowardice. Your faith exposes the lack of hope they carry. Your light, chosen by God, makes them see their own shadows. But listen carefully, the problem was never you. The problem has always been what you carry. You need to understand that envy, rejection, and attacks are not signs that you are on the wrong path, but evidence that you are fulfilling your purpose. If Joseph hadn't carried God's dreams, he would never have faced opposition. If you didn't have something great within you, no one would try to stop you. And what the enemies don't know is that their attempts to destroy you only strengthen what God is building in you. Because every time they try to extinguish your light, it shines brighter. Like oil that, when pressed, yields the purest olive oil, the pressures you face are extracting the best from you. So don't be alarmed by the battles. They are a sign that you are chosen. Don't be shaken by the criticisms. They are a reminder that your light is doing its job. You were placed in this world to be a beacon. Not to please everyone but to guide those who are lost. And like a lighthouse in the darkness, you will shine even when storms try to swallow you. God placed this light inside you with a purpose. And no man, no word, no circumstance will be able to extinguish it. Keep moving forward, chosen one, because your light is the answer the world needs. The trials you face are not signs of abandonment, but the preparation God is working in you. Nothing in your life happens by chance. Every pain, every tear, every battle was allowed with a divine purpose. The journey of the chosen is marked by trials, for only those who pass through the fire can be truly purified. Look at the gold. For it to shine in its purest form, it must be placed in intense fire. It must be melted, separated from impurities, and refined until the refiner can see its reflection. Thus says the Lord, He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the sons of Levi and refine them as gold and silver. Malachi 3 verse 3. God is refining you. The trials you face are not to destroy you but to prepare you. He is removing what doesn't belong to your purpose, shaping your character and strengthening your faith. With each trial you are being transformed, even if you don't perceive it. The process is painful but necessary because those called to great missions must be prepared in an exceptional way. How many times have you asked God to take away the suffering, to ease the burden, and it seemed like He remained silent? But God's silence is not the absence of His presence. Silence is the time of the forge, the time when He is working in you in a way that the world cannot see. Sometimes preparation happens in the dark, where no one can applaud you, where you have no one to turn to but God. This is how it was with the great men and women of the Bible. Joseph was thrown into a pit and sold as a slave before becoming governor of Egypt. Moses spent 40 years in the desert before leading the people of Israel out. David was persecuted, rejected, and humiliated before being crowned king. And you? Do you think your calling would come without a struggle? Do you think you could be used by God without going through preparation? God knows the battles you face. He knows the pains you don't share with anyone. But every fight is a step to bring you closer to your purpose. Every tear you shed is watering the seeds of the future that God has already planted. He promised to be with you through the waters and the fire. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flames scorch you. Isaiah 43 verse 2. Chosen one, listen carefully. What you are facing today is only preparation for what is to come. God is equipping you to bear the blessing He will place in your hands. The greatest victory comes after the fiercest battles. And when the trial passes, you will not be the same. You will be stronger, wiser, more prepared. Suffering is not the end, it is the beginning of a transformation. God is refining you so that you shine with the glory He planned from the beginning. Trust the process. The pain of today will be the reward of tomorrow. There are moments in the journey of the chosen when the silence becomes deafening. You pray, cry out, seek answers, but the heavens seem closed. God's silence can be one of the hardest tests, because it is in the silence that doubt tries to creep in. It is in this apparent void that you ask yourself, has God forgotten me? Am I still on the right path? But listen closely, God's silence is not indifference, it is preparation. When the heavens are silent, it is because something grand is being worked out behind the scenes of your life. It is in isolation, away from the world's gaze, that God forges the greatest warriors. Think of Moses, who spent 40 years in the desert of Midian. He didn't hear voices, didn't see signs. Only silence and solitude. It was there, far from Egypt, that God prepared him to become the liberator of an entire nation. Jesus, before beginning his ministry, was led into the desert. 40 days and 40 nights, alone, fasting, facing temptations and silences. And it was from the desert that he emerged strengthened, ready to fulfill the purpose the Father had placed upon him. David, the man after God's own heart, also knew isolation. Anointed king while still a young shepherd, he spent years fleeing, hiding in caves, pursued by Saul. The silence and isolation were not signs that God had abandoned him, but that he was preparing him for the throne. Do you see the pattern? Silence precedes the manifestation of the promise. Isolation is not a punishment, it is a school. It is in silence that God works the deepest areas of your heart. It is where he whispers secrets you would never hear in the midst of the crowd. Silence teaches you to trust. When everything seems still, God is watching. Will you give up or will you keep believing? True faith is not tested in the midst of miracles, but in the silence. It's easy to believe when everything is going well, but what about when God seems distant? You may not hear God, but he is listening to you. He sees every tear, every silent prayer, every effort to stay strong. Chosen one, God is closer than you think. He is molding you, strengthening you, and preparing you for what is to come. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Matthew 28 verse 20. Even in silence, he is with you. When you feel alone, he is by your side. When no one understands you, he knows every thought you have. Isolation is the training ground of the chosen. It is where you learn to hear God's voice above the voices of the world. It is where you stop depending on people and begin to depend solely on the Lord. So don't get discouraged. If you are in the desert, if the silence seems too long, know that it's just a phase. The promise still stands. The isolation that hurts you today will be the same place where God will reveal your purpose. And when the right time comes, he will bring you out of the cave, out of the desert, and place you exactly where you need to be. Trust the silence, chosen one. For God's silence is not the end. It is the beginning of a new season in your life. Have you noticed how, even in the hardest moments, something inexplicable happens and you are spared? Those accidents that didn't happen, the doors that closed, and deep down were deliverances. There are no coincidences in the life of the chosen. You are protected by an invisible army that guards your steps every moment. The chosen walk under divine protection that human eyes cannot see. It is written, "For he shall give his angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways." Psalm 91 verse 11. While you sleep, the angels are battling on your behalf. When you are tired and think about giving up, God sends reminders to let you know that he is still taking care of you. How many times have you seen repeated numbers, felt an inexplicable peace in the midst of chaos, or looked up and saw an eagle flying? These signs are not mere coincidences. They are divine reminders that you are not alone. The eagle, for example, is a powerful symbol. It doesn't fight the storm, it rises above it. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles, they shall run and not be weary, they shall walk and not faint. Isaiah 40 verse 31. You, chosen one, are like that eagle. When the winds blow against you, it's not the end. It's just the opportunity to rise higher. And the numbers that repeat? How many times do you look at the clock and see 11:11, or another pattern that catches your attention? This is not by chance. God speaks in subtle ways to those who have eyes to see. They are small reminders that he is there, working, guiding you. There are also moments when people appear out of nowhere, with a word you needed to hear. A stranger who helps you without knowing how heavy your life was at that moment. These people are sent by God. The chosen live surrounded by signs, by silent miracles that seem invisible to others, but are as clear as day to those who walk by faith. And when the struggles intensify, and you wonder if you will be able to endure, remember what God promised. 8,000 may fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Psalm 91 verse 7. What destroys many will not touch you. What seemed like it would sink you will, in fact, be the stage of your testimony. Divine protection doesn't mean you won't face battles. It means that even in the midst of them, you will be kept. It means that when you think it's all over, God will surprise you with deliverances you never imagined. Chosen one, you are protected. Even when fear tries to whisper that the worst is yet to come, know that the angels of the Lord are surrounding you. There is no harm that can touch those who are under the shadow of the Almighty. Stay alert to the signs. God is speaking to you every day, whether through nature, numbers, people, or that still small voice that whispers in your heart. He is reminding you that you are guarded, protected, and chosen for something greater. Nothing can destroy you because the God who called you is the same one who sustains you. Chosen one, every tear you've shed, every wound you've carried, every battle you've fought, it all has a purpose. No pain is wasted in God's hands. The suffering that seemed to crush you is the very tool He uses to shape you. Every scar tells a story of overcoming. Every fall was preparation for your rise. The life of Job shows us this clearly. Job was an upright man, faithful, someone who feared God. But even so, he lost everything: wealth, family, health. He was reduced to dust, abandoned, humiliated. Job could have rebelled, he could have given up, but he did something extraordinary. He remained faithful. In the midst of pain, Job declared, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him." Job 13 verse 15. What Job didn't know is that God was using his pain for a greater purpose. In the end, Job was not only restored, but received double of what he had lost. And the Lord restored Job's losses when he prayed for his friends. And the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Job 42 verse 10. This is the promise for those who are chosen. Pain is never the end, it is only the beginning of a great restoration. Pain didn't come to destroy you, it came to strengthen you. It is preparing you for the purpose God has already written for your life. Chosen one, look back and see. How many times did you think you wouldn't make it? How many times did life push you to the limit? And still you are here. Still you got back up. This is not weakness, this is resilience. The strength of a chosen one does not come from within, but from the faith in God that sustains them. The world looks at pain and sees an end, but the chosen look at pain and see a new beginning. They know that every struggle is creating something greater. Just as the diamond is formed under extreme pressure, the pain you are facing is transforming you into the person God called you to be. That's why you cannot give up. The enemy tries to use pain to make you stop because he knows your victory is near. He knows that your pain carries a purpose. Your suffering today will be the message that inspires others tomorrow. The battles you win will be the testimony that lifts up those who have fallen. Chosen one, turn your pain into purpose. Use your wounds as testimony. Every time you rise after a fall, the enemy loses. Every time you declare your faith in the midst of tears, heaven moves on your behalf. You are not defined by the pain you've suffered, but by how you chose to respond to it. And now, stronger, wiser, and more prepared, you are ready to be used by God. Remember, God does not allow battles greater than you can bear. He knew you would withstand this pain because He knows what He is building in you. Chosen one, your pain will be the path to your victory. Turn your tears into seeds and watch God multiply each one of them. What you've gone through will not be in vain. God is about to use what hurt you the most to be what strengthens you the most. Chosen one, God never forgot you. The time of suffering, the silent battles, and the deserts you went through were not in vain, because the God who allows the trial is the same God who guarantees the restoration. The enemy tried to steal from you, but the Lord is the God who restores. He promises to give back not just what was lost but to multiply it abundantly. Look at Job's story once again. After all the pain, he received double what he had lost. What seemed like the end became a new beginning full of grace and prosperity. This is how it is with those who trust in God. The last word will never be pain but victory. There is a promise written in Joel 2 verse 25. I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten, the crawling locust, the consuming locust, and the chewing locust, my great army which I sent among you. This means the time that seemed lost will be recovered. Those years of struggle, tears, and frustrated dreams, God will bring them back to you doubled. Chosen one, you went through the fire and were not consumed. You walked through the waters and did not drown. All because God was with you every step of the way. And now, He is about to exalt you before the eyes of those who doubted you, those who abandoned you. Just like Joseph, who was sold as a slave and humiliated, but became the governor of Egypt. When his brothers came to him, Joseph said, But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring it about as it is this day, to save many people alive. Genesis 50 verse 20. The battles you've won were not just for you. Your victory is a testimony for others to see God's power. Your restoration will be so great that people will say, "Only God could have done this." Prepare for a new season. The promise is being fulfilled. The doors that were once closed will begin to open. The blessings that seemed distant will begin to manifest. But don't be fooled. The greatest reward is not just material things, but the transformation that has happened inside of you. You've gone through the process and now you are ready. God is restoring your health, your family, your dreams. He is giving you back what the enemy tried to steal. The table will be set, as Psalm 23 verse 5 says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over." The time of humiliation is over. Now is the time of honor. Chosen one, God is lifting you up. Your unwavering faith will be rewarded. Your faithfulness will be recognized. What seemed lost will be returned to you double. Rise up and claim your promise, because victory has already been decreed. God does not fail. He is faithful to fulfill everything He has promised. Your restoration will be so great that you will look back and understand, it was worth it to trust. It was worth it to wait. Chosen one, you did not go through all of this just for yourself. The pain you overcame, the battles you won, and the tears you shed have shaped you for something greater, to be a beacon of light for those still walking in darkness. Your journey is not just about you. It is about the lives God wants to reach through your story. God does not choose ordinary people for small missions. He chooses those who have the strength to endure the process, those who carry the faith to go beyond when everything seems lost. You are that person. The mission ahead of you is to inspire, guide, and lift others who are fallen. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden." Matthew 5 verse 14. The light that God has placed inside you is not to be hidden. It is to shine, to illuminate the path for those who still don't know where to go. There are people waiting for your testimony, waiting to hear that it is possible to overcome, that there is hope, that God still works miracles. Chosen one, you are a leader even if you don't realize it yet. Your life is a living example of God's grace and power. When others look at you, they will see not only someone who overcame but someone who was transformed. They will see that even in the valley of the shadow of death, God was present. They will see that faith is stronger than any adversity. And the world needs this light. In times where many give up, where fear and hopelessness try to dominate, your mission is to be a living testimony that God is faithful, that He does not abandon His own, that He transforms pain into purpose, desert into abundance, and tears into joy. Just as Moses led the people out of Egypt, you will be the one who points the way for those enslaved by doubt, fear, and pain. Just as Joseph fed a nation during times of famine, you will feed hungry souls with words of life. Just as David became king after years of persecution, you will be placed in positions of authority, not to exalt yourself, but to glorify the one who chose you. The mission of the chosen is sacred. It is not about fame or recognition. It is about service. It is about placing your life in God's hands and saying, "Here I am, send me," Isaiah 6 verse 8. It is about allowing your life to be used to fulfill an eternal purpose. Chosen one, rise up and take your position. Do not let fear or the voices of the world paralyze you. God called you, God equipped you, and He is with you. You are the instrument He chose to touch hearts and transform lives. Be the answer for those who are praying. Be the light in the midst of darkness. The world is searching for hope, and you carry that hope within you. God is counting on you to fulfill this mission. So ask yourself, what will I do with everything I've been through? How can I use my story to inspire others? Chosen one, don't underestimate the impact of your life. You are called to be a guide, a beacon, a leader. Your mission is just beginning. Chosen one, your life is not a coincidence, and what you have faced so far has only been the beginning. There is a powerful calling upon you, a divine summons that can no longer be ignored. God is calling you to rise up, to move forward with faith, to embrace the purpose He has placed in your hands. It doesn't matter what the world says. It doesn't matter what the enemy tries to whisper in your ears. Victory has already been decreed. The battle you face will not be in vain, because God is already ahead, making a way where there was none. Perhaps you are wondering, am I really capable? Am I ready for this? Listen closely. God doesn't choose the prepared, He prepares the chosen. Moses questioned his ability. Jeremiah said he was just a child. Gideon thought he was too small. But God, in His sovereignty, used each of them to accomplish the impossible. And He wants to use you. He called you to be a channel of transformation, an instrument of light in a world in need of hope. There is no more time for doubts, fears, or hiding. God is calling you to the final mission, and the time is now. Rise up, chosen one. The world needs to hear your voice. Those who are lost need to see your light. The Lord says to you, be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Joshua 1 verse 9. Your story does not end with pain, but with victory. Every battle you've won is proof that the God who called you is faithful to honor you. Every tear that fell will be rewarded with joy. Every fall will be a testimony of overcoming. Now, chosen one, I invite you to claim your promise. Declare with faith, I am chosen and God will restore me double. If you feel this message in your heart, if you know that God is speaking to you, now is the time to act. Don't let this word pass by. Confirm your place as a chosen one, share this message, and declare to the world that victory is already yours. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave in the comments, I am chosen and God will restore me double. Remember, your struggle was not in vain. Your story has a purpose. God has already decreed your victory. Rise up, chosen one, and walk your mission with courage and faith.